Divorce. It can be difficult, lengthy, and costly. Sometimes it's best for you and your spouse to meet with a neutral third party, the mediator, to help kind of smooth out the whole journey. Joining us today to help us understand the role of a mediator in Georgia divorce is attorney, author, and our friend here at A&C, Randy Kessler. Randy, welcome back.
Good to be here, as always.
It's great having you, and I know you've represented some pretty high-profile folks from Real Housewives of Atlanta, Tamika, Raymond, Usher's spouse.
Former.
Former spouse, of course, now. But talk to me about the importance of this particular book. I've got it right here, because you've written other books.
Sure. Well, this is an interesting book because most people don't want to go to court.
Right.
And what's the alternative to going to court? Well, you can sit with your husband or your wife, but you're usually not getting along. So how do we facilitate resolution? Mediation is really caught on in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice. It's not, look at it, it's kind of thin. So don't worry about being overwhelmed by the information, because based on the other times I've had you on the show, you really know how to narrow things out. That's why you're an expert in your field. Narrow them down so people can get through this process, because it really is just a tough situation. And then to know how much money you're going to potentially be spending.
All those questions.
Yeah, we have lots of different scenarios, and we actually want to get to some from you, our viewers. So let's get right to it.
Ready?
First up, Randy, what you got?
All right. So does the mediator represent people? People think I'm going to go to a mediator and they're going to advise me. A mediator is a neutral. A mediator is somebody who's really, we call them a facilitator. They're going to help you and your husband or you and your wife figure out how to resolve things, and they're going to listen and listen and listen, and they're going to bring ideas back and forth, sort of like shuttle diplomacy, like Henry Kissinger did with Egypt and Israel.
Exactly,
you know?
right.
So let's go to another one. A lot of people ask, what's the main difference between mediation and trial? Why would you go to mediation instead of trial? And I can summarize that really quickly. At a mediation, you go and the mediator will come to you and say, how about if you take $3,000 worth of alimony and this part of the assets? And you can say, I'll think about it. You go to trial and the judge says, how about if you take $3,000 a month? And you say, okay, you have to walk away. You have no control over your future if you let it go to trial. So everybody that's going through it should try to go through mediation or think about mediation.
Okay, think about it as the first step rather than ultimately having the trial.
Right, give it a chance. There are a lot of reasons to give mediation a chance.
Next up.
This is a good reason to give mediation a chance.
Yes.
Right?
All right,
what
great
if somebody's
question.
really angry and says, I'm not going to settle, I'm not going to budge, I will never do anything, a judge is going to have to make me do it.
Oh, boy.
That's still not a bad case for mediation, because sometimes when you go to mediation and you sit with the mediator, maybe privately away from your spouse, you can say all the things you'd like to say in trial. And you can get it off your chest. And a lot of people can't move forward until they get that catharsis.
Sure.
They have to go through it and they have to say, he did this and she did that. And they have to tell somebody.
Right.
And they have to tell somebody that's going to tell the other side. So they do that, the mediator listens, and then the mediator may say it to the other side in a nicer way.
Of course.
It's off their chest, it's out of their system. Then they can focus on the real resolution, which is taking care of the kids and the assets.
Sure, there's still a prospect for resolution, even if one side is maybe a lot more angry.
And it is not uncommon for one or both sides to be angry, because there are always two sides to a story.
There's three, in my opinion. His, hers, and the truth somewhere in the middle, right?
And it's nice to hear what the other side is saying. If you're going to go to trial, I want the other side to tell the mediator what's bad about my side. The mediator tells me, and I say, oh, I didn't think about that. That really doesn't look so good. So you'd like to know before you get to trial, and then it's too late.
Right. Okay.
Alrighty.
Next up.
So, what if mediation helps resolve some things? You go to mediation, you spend all day, the mediator helps you fashion a resolution, but it's 5 o'clock at night, you've got to get home and get the kids, and you haven't solved everything. A lot of people, this happens to a lot of people, and guess what? You can do a second mediation. I think the goal of mediation should not necessarily be to settle a case, but it should be to appreciate the fact that you can communicate. Because once the case is over and the lawyers are out of the picture, you're still going to have to negotiate.
Sure.
You know, I've got bad traffic, I can't make it there, I've got to work late, can you take the kids to dinner? You got to be able to work things out. And if you go through mediation and it's productive, go through a second mediation, a third mediation.
I actually have a question, Randy.
Yes, ma'am.
Is a mediation longer, or excuse me, does a trial take longer than mediation? Like, is there one of them that's a little bit of a shorter amount of time where you can feel like you can get it done a little more efficiently?
Efficiency is the word. Mediation is more efficient for a lot of reasons. You do it at your own schedule. You pick the mediator. You don't get to pick your judge. So you can pick somebody who knows finances if it's a financially complex case, or pick a psychologist if there are a lot of psychological issues. And, you know, a lot of people say, I don't want to go to mediation, I don't want to pay lawyers, I don't want to spend the day. You know what? When you get a lawyer focused on your case, not taking phone calls, just saying, today we're going to settle your case, it's a much better way to do it. And even if you don't settle the case, you're better prepared for trial, because now you know what the other side is going to say.
Exactly.
And you know what your weaknesses are. So always worth considering mediation. Does everybody need a lawyer? It's a great idea to have a lawyer at mediation, because what if you make a deal and you didn't realize there's a tax consequence to one of the decisions you made.
Right, right.
You know, lawyers that have been through it, yes, it costs money, but it's worth the ounce of prevention, in my opinion, so that when the mediator brings a settlement offer, you can say to your lawyer, am I making a big mistake? And the lawyer can say, here's what you need to think about.
Bounce off those ideas, and somebody who knows the fine print, where most of us do not, right? And someone who's been there.
And somebody who's been through trial, they can say, well, if you go to trial, I don't think you'll do nearly this well.
Okay, got it. Right, they'll break it down for you. And on that note, how much, on average, should somebody be prepared to spend when they are going through divorce? I know that's hard to say. There's a lot of different factors.
Well, you know, if you come in, if people get together and they work things out without a mediator, you can do a divorce for $500, $1,000. But if you're going to fight about when the kids spend time with each parent and what the assets are, it's going to be at least $5,000, and they can go up to $100,000 or $200,000.
Yeah.
But if you don't have $100,000 to fight over, it shouldn't cost $100,000.
Right, right.
So that's sort of how I look at it.
Okay, next up.
Nolan, what if they feel like the lawyers are fighting too much? You know, we go to mediation and the lawyers are all
Like, we're
puffing
actually
up.
getting along okay. It's those guys that are fighting.
And that happens. Sometimes the lawyer wants to stand up for their client, or they've got an ego problem with the other lawyer. Sometimes a good mediator may say, you know what? Let's leave the lawyers in a room together and let's get the parties out. And sometimes the parties, especially people that are successful, that are you know, used to controlling their own destiny, and people that take charge, they're going to step up and say, look, I'm tired of this process. No more paying the lawyers. How much do you want? Another $10,000 and we're done? I'll give you $10,000 if you'll sign this right now.
Right, and let's do it.
But a lot of that doesn't happen until you get into the environment of, oh my gosh, this is really going to be bad and messy. I need to take over. I need to take over for my lawyer. And sometimes that really is the way cases get resolved. And that's not a bad thing either.
Okay. At the end of the day, unfortunately, I think we're out of questions.
Okay.
One last final thing, something quick that you wish clients had learned while they were going through divorce, or somebody out there is listening.
I wish they learned to think about where they want to be 5 years from now. 5 years from now, do you want to say, I had to go to trial and let a judge who doesn't know anything about my case resolve it? Think about this. Judges have 30 cases a day to work on. They're not going to give you all the time. Pay for a mediator, take your time, and compromise. You know, it's just stuff. Happiness means getting it behind you and moving on.
Great advice. Here is the book. Thank you, Randy. It is always a pleasure seeing you.
Good to see you.
Great information and advice. And if you would like to learn more about Randy and your partners, how do you pronounce his?
Solomiani, KS Family Law.
Okay, KS Family Law. Solomiani. I should know that. It sounds Italian.
That was very good.
Solomiani and Kessler. Again, it's KSFamilyLaw.com. Pick up a copy of this book if you or a loved one may need it. Hang tight. When we come back, we're talking to the cast of The Smash Hit